Hey, what's up guys, it's AndreOth here, bringing you guys another video. And in this video I'm going to be talking about my first impressions of using FL Studio as a former Logic Pro X user. Let's get into it. So guys, this isn't like an in-depth review or anything like that. I've only been using FL Studio probably less than a week, but I made a couple beats and I've kind of figured it out, and this is just a little first impressions of just what I think from using it for the short time I've used it. So obviously this isn't like an in-depth review. I haven't used it long enough to do an in-depth review. This is just the first impressions of my experience and I've been using it for the last week. So guys, like I said, I've made a few beats in FL Studio already. I've kind of gotten the hang of it, and yeah, I'm going to talk about all of the things that I have liked using FL Studio and all of the things that I may not have liked that much, especially moving from Logic Pro. So yeah guys, I'm going to start off with some of the things that I didn't really like and some of the things that I had to really get used to. Being a former Logic Pro user using FL Studio, so the first thing is probably the biggest thing that most people who use FL Studio after using Logic Pro is going to notice is moving things to the mixer channel, right, to the mixer. That's kind of annoying, you know what I mean? So whenever you're doing, when you're making a beat in FL Studio, let's say you add a new sound in, you add a VST in, right, and you make a melody, you have to manually, you know, move to the mixer. And to be fair, it's really easy to do that. There's just a little box to the left where you can just choose what channel that you want it to be on. But I don't know, it's just a little bit, it's just like the fact that you have to manually do that, whereas with Logic you don't manually move something to the mixer. As soon as you make a new track, it automatically gets moved to the mixer. Yeah, that's one thing that's kind of annoying, can't lie. But to be fair, with FL Studio they make it really easy. So I know when you open up like a VST in the playlist, so when you drag it into like a certain track in the playlist, like it automatically adds it to the channel rack, and it automatically adds it to the mixer. So I do know it does that. Yeah, so the mixer things, I mean, it's not a huge deal, but it's just like, I don't know, it should be more automatic in my opinion. And you have to put something in the mixer as well to add an effect to it. And again, that's kind of different in Logic, because in Logic you open up a track, let's say you open up Omnisphere, you want to add like halftime to it or something like that. You don't have to add it to the mixer, then go to the mixer and then add halftime. Like Omnisphere is already there, you just click add effects and you just add halftime to it, or whatever effect you want to add to it. It's not a huge deal, obviously, but it's just kind of a little thing where it's just like, I mean, this process could be a little bit easier. But you guys, another thing that took a little bit of getting used to, I wouldn't really say it's a bad thing, but just creating different patterns, you know, because in Logic, let's say if you want to create like a counter melody and use like a different VST, right, you just create a different track, load in the VST, and just create a MIDI and just write out whatever melody you want to write out. FL, you kind of have to like create a different pattern and then load up the VST and then create the melody and stuff like that. And it's not a huge deal. I wouldn't really say it's like a bad thing or anything like that, but it's just something that kind of takes a little bit of getting used to, just because that process in Logic is a little bit more automated. But yeah, that was something that I had to get used to. It wasn't hard to get used to doing that, but it's just like, okay, now I need to create a different pattern. And whereas in Logic you kind of just create like a different track and stuff. But yeah, but one thing I don't really like though is like when you change the, like say when you change the name and the color of a channel. For example, let's say I'm doing the drums and I want to change the name of the kicks to whatever I want it to be called, and then I want to change the color to like red, right? Let's say if I did that in the channel rack, it wouldn't change in the mixer, which is kind of annoying. So obviously I'm sure there's a way you can do it, but you think that it change in the mixer as well, but it doesn't change in the mixer. I'm sure there's a way to do it, so I'm sure if you kind of change the name and the color of everything in the channel rack, copy and paste and copy it and paste it into the mixer, I'm sure it will work. Like I said, there's a way you can do it, but it should be easy as just changing it in the channel rack and then the color changes in the mixer as well. or the name changes in the mixer as well, you know, but it just doesn't really do that, which is kind of annoying. One thing that what's a little bit annoying that took getting used to is something as simple as like deleting notes, you know, because let's say if you draw like a melody, right, and you want to delete like a note from the melody, in Logic you kind of just click it, and you just click it once and it kind of just deletes. But whereas in FL Studio you have to press Control and then click it. I think that's just a Mac thing. I think in PC, I think you just right click it to delete, but on Mac you have to press Control and then click it. I'm sure you can change that, but I'm just talking by default. I think that should be a little bit easier to do. And another thing that I don't really love, and this is the last thing, is how do I even explain this? It's like the values of things get shown in the top left corner. And everyone who uses FL knows what I mean. So if I'm in the mixer, right, and I'm turning down a slider, right, let's say if it's at 0 decibels and I'm turning it down to 2 decibels, you won't see that number and that figure on the slider. You won't see it where your mouse is. You have to look up to the left corner of the screen, and in this little gray box it says the values that you're changing the slider to. And I don't know if you can change that, but that's kind of annoying, because if you're turning something down, your eyes are automatically going to be looking where your mouse is. So if I'm turning down the turner or slider, like your eyes are going to be looking at the slider and you're expecting to see the value somewhere, but you have to look away and look to the left corner of the screen to see the value. Like, I'm sure there's a benefit of that, but that's kind of annoying, and it does that with every kind of effect or plugin. You know, if you're changing like the wet and the dry from the reverb or anything like that, you have to look to the top left corner to see what value you're changing it to and what figure you're changing it to. And I don't really love that. I mean, I'm sure there could be a benefit of it, but I don't really like that. Like, and that's kind of one annoying thing that they do in FL, which I don't love. I kind of wish they'd change that, but yeah, again, it's just a small thing. And yeah, alright, enough with the negativity. Let's move on to the positive things, the things that I did enjoy about FL. And there's plenty of things, but I'm gonna try and keep it concise. The first thing is just ease of use. You know, just getting used to how FL works, getting used to, you know, the idea of putting stuff in the mixer channel and having to go to the mixer channel. And also the other thing too is like the slots in the mixer channel are significant, because certain effects won't affect an effect that's above it, or they won't affect the effect that's below it. You guys know what I'm talking about, man. It's really hard to explain that shit, but you guys know what I mean. I don't think that's the case in Logic. I don't think the order of an effect has an impact on how it affects the channel or whatever, right? You know, I watched, you know, YouTube videos for like 2 days or something like that. I was just binge watching FL Studio tutorials for like a couple of days, and instantly I kind of figured it out, and I was able to make a beat quite shortly. You know what I mean? I haven't even been using it for a week yet, and I feel super confident in it, and I don't really feel like there's that much stuff that I don't understand. I remember getting used to Logic, it was a little bit harder, to say the least, you know what I mean? So that's one thing I do appreciate about FL, is it's really easy to get a hang of. Yeah, man, another thing too is the limiter and the soft clipper. Obviously those are two crucial things when you're making a beat. I put them on damn near all of my beats, and one thing I like about the limiter and the clipper is it's easy to use. Especially the clipper, it's just 2 turners, that's it. There's 2 options. You can't get confused, and you don't even need to mess around with them. Like when I make a beat, I just put the limiter on, I put the soft clipper on, and I just make the beat, and it does the rest. You know, whereas with Logic, they don't really have like a soft clipper or a limiter that works like FL's, where you can just have something peaking and it'll just do magic to keep it under 0 decibels. It's not really like that in Logic. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but there isn't like a limiter or a clipper that you can just put on your track and you can turn everything up as loud as you want it and it'll just work magic. Like, there's nothing like that on Logic. So I love that about FL. You can throw the clipper on, throw the limiter on, you don't even have to do anything to it, it just does everything for you. I love that. So yeah, another thing I have down here is to do drums, hi-hat rolls, kicks, mess with the velocity, the pitch. All of that is super easy and it's just super intuitive, you know what I mean? Like when you're Doing the hi-hats, you just open that little menu at the bottom. You can change the velocity, the pan, the pitch and stuff like that, which is super easy. They have another menu in the channel rack which you can change the velocity, you can change the pan, you can do the shift and stuff like that without even going into the piano roll. You know what I mean? So they just made it even easier to do drums and hi-hats and stuff like that. The only thing I wish that menu had was like a note repeat, so I can do different hi-hat rolls and snare rolls and stuff like that. Whereas in Logic it's slightly harder to affect the drums and stuff like that, like how you can do in FL Studio. Another thing too with FL is like, I love how you can just drag in like an 808 or whatever. You can double click it and then it opens the menu where you can kind of edit the 808 and stuff like that. In Logic you kind of have to go to the channel that the 808 is on and then open it up in Sampler and then edit it. Or with FL Studio you can just double tap anything and then you instantly have that menu where you can alter it and edit it and stuff like that. I love the little boost feature. It just makes it so easy to boost up your kicks and your 808s. You don't have to add any kind of effect on it. You can just click boost and literally get the sound you want from your 808s and your kicks and stuff like that. Yeah, and that leads me into another thing, doing bass glides and stuff like that. Like, you know me, I do a lot of drill beats and stuff like that. Doing bass glides is super easy in Logic because all you have to do is literally click one button. Click that little slope button, now your bass is gliding. And you don't have to come out the piano roll to do that or anything like that. Whereas in Logic, you have to go into the sampler thing, put it in legato mode, change the figure to like 60, 90, stuff like that. Obviously it's not that hard, but to just be able to just click one button and then boom, now you have bass glides. That's super awesome about FL Studio. Another thing that I like is obviously ghost notes. Bro, I can't even explain how much ghost notes help to do counter melodies, to do bass lines, 808s, whatever. It just helps so much just to see the ghost notes, just to see exactly where you place the notes on the main melody or on the chord progression or on the bass. Like, it just makes it so easy to just build from the main melody. That is just such a huge thing because it's just that synergy, it's that cohesion, you know what I mean? And you can just build off of what you've previously done, which is really what you do when you make a beat. When you do a counter melody, you're building off the chord progression, the main melody. When it comes to workflow, having those ghost notes, man, like, it's a game changer. Like, Logic and other DAWs need to include that because it's a huge deal. And yeah, ghost notes is just freaking goated. I love it. And yeah, and yeah, there's some other things too, like the shortcuts. I feel like there's more shortcuts in FL Studio. There's so many shortcuts, so many. Alt this, Alt K, Alt U, Command this, Shift that, Alt this. It's just like there's so many shortcuts in FL Studio. Like, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I feel like they have more shortcuts than Logic and maybe any other DAW. Like, there's so many shortcuts that obviously help with your workflow and stuff like that. And I've taken the time out to learn all of them and they've helped so much. I don't even know them off by heart, but you know, even like when you press like P to get the pointer and then C to have like the little scissors thing so you can cut, and then D to delete, like, it takes some getting used to because I don't really use that much shortcuts. Well, I didn't use that much shortcuts when I was using Logic. With FL, shortcuts are key and they just help you so much to speed up the workflow and to make everything faster. And yeah, so many shortcuts. That's one thing I do really love about FL Studio. So guys, like I said, I've only been using it for like 5 days, so these are just my first impressions. This isn't like an in-depth review or anything like that, but these are just the things that I've noticed switching to FL Studio from Logic. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did like the video though, please hit the like button down below and subscribe for more, because I have way more videos like this coming out every single week. If you guys want to purchase any beats from me, please get the link in the description down below, because I have an offer going on for 10 free beats. And if you guys want, you can follow me on Twitter, you can follow me on Instagram for all the latest updates. Catch you guys in the next video. Peace.